just wanted to share some thoughts that came up during my Bible study with my children, actually. Something that I thought was insightful in terms of revelation came up in our discussion of the Tower of Babel. Something I hadn't thought of before, or something I definitely didn't make the connection to or with before. I want to start with reading the word Genesis chapter 11. And it says, "And the whole earth was of one language and of one speech. And it came to pass as they journeyed from the east that they found a plain in the land of Shinar, and they dwelt there. And they said one to another, Go to and let us make brick and burn them thoroughly. And they had brick for stone, and slime had they for mortar. And they said, Go to, let us build a city, and a tower, whose top may reach unto heaven, and let us make us a name, lest we be scattered abroad upon the face of the whole earth. And the Lord came down to see the city and the tower, which the children of men builded. And the Lord said, Behold, the people is one, and they have all one language, and this they begin to do, and now nothing will be restrained from them which they have imagined to do. Go to, let us go down, and there confound their language, that they may not understand one another's speech. So the Lord scattered them abroad from thence upon the face of all the earth, and they left off to build the city." So, as I was talking this over with my children, of course giving them the foundational information regarding the Tower of Babel, the fact that this was man's attempt to reconnect with God, reconnect with heaven, and considering the fact that Adam and Eve fell and they were removed from the garden, in essence removed from God's presence, man once again wanted to find a way, a loophole, if you will, to get back to God's presence. The problem with this is that, like Lucifer in heaven, who was ultimately kicked out for trying to create an uprising against God, man again tried to, with his evil nature, become God. We were all created in God's image and likeness, but to conduct ourselves like God is different than trying to conduct ourselves as God. So they try to take it upon themselves to be God, building a tower, coming together as one, uniting, and again trying to reach the heaven, though they were banned from the heavenly presence of God. What struck me about this, and I've read this passage plenty of times, is the fact that God recognized that when they were together as one, speaking a common language, uniting, they were able to do the impossible. My children have the NIV Adventure Bible, and it actually reads, "But the Lord came down to see the city and the tower that the men were building. The Lord said, If as one people speak in the same language they have begun to do this, then nothing they plan to do will be impossible for them." So God pointed out the fact that when people come together and are speaking a common language and are coming around a common goal, a common vision, they can do anything. All things are possible. They were able, with the fact that they were united, speaking the same language, they were able to come together and build this tower to reach heaven. God obviously couldn't allow that to happen, which is why he confused the language and scattered the people. But let's think about this and apply this to life today. The Bible tells us that a house divided amongst itself cannot stand. We already know that the enemy comes to divide us. He loves division. He loves confusion. He recognized that if we come together, we can do a lot. The Bible tells us that one can chase 1,000 and two can put 10,000 to flight. So if we focus our attention on understanding this concept of unity on a different level, we would be more effective, not only in ministry, but in life. We focus so much on differences and on the things that truly don't matter, and we don't spend enough time focusing on the commonalities that exist between the human race. And if we ever got our focus right, we would know that ultimately we would be unstoppable. So here's the thing. God is building his church. He is uniting his church as we speak. He is going around identifying people who recognize his voice. He said, my sheep know my voice. We have to first of all recognize the language of God and speak that language. We have to be able to communicate effectively the heavenly language in order to even be drawn in to God's presence, to be united with other believers. There are people who are talking the talk but certainly not walking the walk, and that's why they're speaking what I like to call a form of godliness language, and not necessarily a language that is going to yield power. So again, the idea of us being united and being so powerful that we can do the impossible according to God himself shows that we need to do better as a body of Christ. I'm going to continue to study this more and deepen my understanding of this and how it works. But that blew my mind. The fact that God himself recognized the power of unity. And because of the way in which they were trying to apply their unity, because here's the thing, we can apply unity for good or for evil. A gang can come together around a common enemy, but obviously that's for evil, but they're still united, which makes them powerful. So imagine if we got our focus on the positive and focus on the things that matter and purpose and our mission and what we're called to do. And imagine we united around that and focused on doing God's will and building the kingdom. We would be unstoppable. These people built a city. And God came down to see it for himself. He was like, look, they're essentially creating their form of heaven on earth just by being united. Wow. So we need to get it together as a body of Christ. We need to come together. First of all, we need to identify the purpose. Make sure that the purpose is pure. And then we need to come together around that purpose and watch what we're able to do. Imagine if we brought God into the mix or allowed him to lead and guide and direct us, we would be unstoppable. That's why it says through Christ we can do all things. We can do a lot of things as a united body, but we can do all things through Christ who strengthens us. It's my sincerest prayer that this blesses you as much as it blessed me, and I'll definitely be back with some more anecdotes and some more thoughts